Welcome to the Friday Arse Show. Toby, you've popped your Friday Arse cherry. How's it feeling, mate?
It's more painful and bloody than I was expecting, but it feels good all the same.
Don't worry, mate. You'll soon get used to it. Welcome to the show, everyone. Joining me today is the one half of the original ArseBro OG Toby. He has introduced himself. He's popping his his Friday Arse cherry. It's got to be done, mate. It has to be done. Tonight we will be talking about. We'll get on to it actually now, shall we? Should we talk about last night's game? Did you watch it? What did you think?
I did. It was one of those funny games where it was less exciting as it has been to watch. So I watched the whole thing, but I watched it sort of paused a few times, made the kids breakfast, had it on in the background. But you know, there are a few points of interest that I made sure that I looked for, with obvious reasons because of the obvious going-ons that's been happening lately. So just checking out the formation, checking out where certain players were not necessarily their starting positions, but when they were playing in and out of possession, who was playing, and of course the $1 million question. Who would actually step up to the first team with our bag of shit cunts from that first 11? So
none.
They were the things that I was looking for. What about you?
No. I didn't watch the whole thing. Unfortunately, I have because I haven't got BT Sports over here, which is why it's on in the UK. They charge you like a £30 a month extra on top of what you would pay on for your extra. Say we get Sky or say Virgin, for instance. There are two main like cable and satellite subscribers, and they want what should I say? They want to charge that £30 extra on top of your normal bill just for a couple of sports channels and a couple of the bits. Where
that's a lot.
I give them that.
A lot. Yeah.
So I have to get it on a streaming service. Unfortunately, the streaming service I was watching was crap, and I just give up. And I thought, well, I'll catch the highlights because it's not one of them games that really mattered because we were already through. We're qualified to the next round of Europa. It was just more of watching it like you, seeing who's going to step up, see who's going to do this. So I thought, well, I'll catch the highlights. I'll try and watch some of that. And yeah, it wasn't too bad. It just showed what I already knew about what was going on with the Europa team, mate. Because I've said it for a while now, and the energy that them, that team has, it's so much. Like I say, it's night. It's like watching night and day with that squad and the Premier League squad. All right, you can argue the issue. You can argue the opposition.
And I think we always need to. I think we always need to have that, quotation marks caveat whenever we discuss it. But yeah,
that means nothing to me.
you're right.
You can argue the opposition all you want. At the end of the day, it's still the same team that we're watching. It's still Arsenal. It's still they're getting the same information of what the Premier League team does. They're putting the same formation. I swear to hell they're getting the same tactics. So why is it so different? You can't just keep going like you just said in quotations, the lesser opposition.
Yeah.
Well, what do you call, for instance, who do we call lesser opposition in the Premier League? Like would Aston Villa?
Bloody no one.
Would Villa? Yeah. Is Villa the lesser opposition? I would assume so.
I would say anyone 14 or above at the moment.
Not us then.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my thing on it, and that's what I'm getting a bit like it's like a pet peeve.
For sure. No, and I think for all us fans that's the main peeve, and I'm sure we'll progress the whole thing as we get through it. But it's holding the underperformers accountable is the thing that we as fans want the most. So who did not to bloody take over your show, Scunny, but who stood out for you?
It gets taken over every week, mate. So don't worry about it. I just sit here as a just watch basically. I just go, oh yeah, you lot crack on. I'm happy,
mate.
But
I don't normally. That's the key to a good facilitator is to let the others talk.
Yeah, facilitate and talk.
Unlike my esteemed brother,
who has a question within a statement within a question within a statement within a statement.
Correct. Correct.
But yeah, it's from what I saw, I thought there was a couple that stood up for me. If that's what you meant, I might have heard the question wrong.
No, that's right. That's
right.
A
couple did stand up for me. El Nene, yes, he did stand up for me from what I saw in the highlights. Obviously, you don't get a full round picture, but I thought he looked pretty decent. I thought he was, he was pretty sharp. And that goal, well, what can I say? That's a screamer.
I haven't seen us score one like that since bloody Flamini against Chelsea.
Yeah, we don't tend. This is what I mean. That's the other pet hate I've got about Arsenal at the minute. They seem to want to pass it. Midfield. Yeah. It's just like they seem to want to pass it into the net again. It's like we haven't done that since that hasn't worked. That hasn't worked for Arsenal since early 2000s. You could probably go back to 2005, and then it's like, no, passing it into the net don't work no more. And then all of a sudden, it's like it seems to get repeated to try it again and try it again. It's like, look, we've got people with a cannon for feet. Let them use it. But it just doesn't seem to work.
Well, and
Maitland-Niles had a chance as well, didn't he? And it got saved. So he's like, well, there's people out there who can do it.
Oh, I think so. And it's that. I mean, I understand everything is bloody statistical and analytical these days, and maybe they work out that X amount of times out of 100 it ain't going to do shit, and overall percentage wise it's better if you play within these certain parameters. But fuck, it's boring, as a fan, the thing we want most is your screamers. That's what you live for as a fan. 30 yards out, hitting the underside of the crossbar. That stuff's, the exciting part of football. You Tony Yeboah goals and you bloody, Lacazette had a go at recreating that Yeboah goal last week in midweek, and El Neni certainly gave it a spank. And it's those type of chaotic moments that a keeper could spill it, it could hit a defender, there could be a rebound, there could be something. And I know there's not fans in the stadium at the moment, but, they will uplift the crowd as well. Like this incessant drilling of players to the point where football becomes unenjoyable, even for those players now, let alone the fans.
Well, yeah.
The players aren't enjoying it, are they?
No, of course not. And Hambo Gumbel, I don't know if I said that right. He was talking about screamers, Ramsey against Galatasaray. I remember that one. That was a great one. But it's one of them things, isn't it? It's like, it's okay saying you don't want to, like to score these screamers and stuff, but they come from nowhere, these screamers, you don't expect it to hit the target as well as what it did. It went into the top left-hand side of the goal, and surely as players as well, when you're watching stuff like that as a player, that should lift you up as well. It doesn't just lift the fans. Surely it lifts your teammates around you, because even they're going to be like, Jesus Christ, that was amazing. Let's do that again.
Yeah, for sure. But maybe, and this is an interesting psychological point, maybe we're not far away from one of those sliding doors moments that can turn our season around. So, with the discussion of the doom and gloom, something like that happens. And that could be the turning point in the season where someone's confidence switches and then everything that's been drilled in starts sinking in. So, I know I'm projecting a little bit by saying that, but we've got to
project something, mate.
you can always hope.
Yeah, this is it. This is what I agree. We've got to hope for these things. And like I said, we have got players who can score these types of goals. So yeah, other than that, the game, it sort of went how I expected, for me anyway. For the 4-2, I think Runnison is coming for a bit of flack because of them goals, which I think it's a bit unfair. In all fairness, it happens. As a goalkeeper, it happens. You're not going to keep a clean sheet for the rest of your life.
No, of course not. Of course not. I thought maybe his positioning for their goal, maybe, when that bloke with the Spanish name, who's apparently English, went through on goal, I wasn't too concerned because of the angles and everything. It wasn't something I thought was definite when he was about to hit it. It was a bit of a computer game goal almost.
Yeah.
And
FIFA, here we come.
Yeah. Smack it back across the face, top left type of thing. So potentially Runarsson could have done better, but too early to go shooting under the bus, or do you want to have the fucking Martinez discussion again?
Well, this is it, innit? It's like we seem to have this. Arsenal fans at the minute seem to have this conversation all the time. You slate one keeper, and then the other one makes a couple of mistakes. All right, granted, like you say, he was out of position. He makes, it's going to happen sometimes. And they're only human at the end of the day, human error and everything that goes into it. Sometimes he just can't physically save it. He might just got to that point where he just couldn't physically do it. It happens. It's a game of football. We were 4-1. We were 4. Yeah, I think by the time the second one, it was 4-1 up at the time, and I think it was 2-0 up before the first one went in. So it's not as if we were on the back foot. But it does seem to get to that point is, right, okay, we have the Leno discussion. We want Martinez back. We have the Runarsson discussion. We want Martinez. We never should have sold him. It's like, Jesus Christ, give it a rest.
Yeah, I know. And we don't really need to waste our breath. It was a good bit of business. We made 20 million when we weren't going to make £1. It was great. And by all accounts, he was going to leave anyway. And his run of form at the end upped his asking price by 17 million quid. So,
yeah, exactly. A 3 million player turned into a 20 million player.
Yeah. So
it's good business.
Happy days for everyone. And we kept our, I don't like using the term world class, but we kept our, top level German goalkeeper as well. So happy days.
Yeah, I agree.
Other players that I enjoyed watching, I really enjoyed watching AMN. I feel like he's really coming along. I was disappointed that he didn't get a run in central midfield again because he'd played so well the week before. Yeah. And that could be an option when we're lacking central midfielders in our first team. But he needs a run of enough games that he can be trusted to play in the Premiership. And I think that's why Arteta holds him back. So I was disappointed that he went back to left wing back in that game against Dundalk. But at least in that position, he gets to drift in and join that midfield 3 or 4, depending on how fluid the formation is at the time. So disappointed that he didn't play in that position because I wanted a larger sample size. But I was really impressed with his play. He's silky as fuck. When he gets his game time up, he starts reminding me of a Diaby, and I realize, like that sort of that similar stride, but almost the cockiness with that technique that's slightly better than your average player. And I love the way he was linking up with Death Row Records as well. So, I was there was a few really nice little sort of inside out balls and flicks and tricks, and I was really impressed by that. So that's something to feel happy about. I thought Nketiah did a good job, and I know a lot of us say that he's not good enough, but I see a lot of good in him. He seems to do everything on fast forward for me, which is exactly what we need in such a ponderous team. And he really does. And I hate to draw the comparison because I know they have that training relationship, but that sort of deadly Ian Wright, reactionary fox in the box, finding a way of scoring goals as well. That little dink was great. The week before,
it was a good goal. It was the first goal of the game. Yeah, definitely. That little chip over the keeper. Yeah.
Yep, the week before where he kind of fucked up the shot and it came back to him really quickly and he had that intense reaction time to head it back in. And even when he came on against Spurs, he does things quickly. It doesn't always come off, but he does them quickly, whereas our strikers tend to be very ponderous.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to the confidence a lot of the time as well, which we're saying, these guys, these young lads, confidence comes from anywhere, doesn't it, really, with these young'uns? You don't need to have You don't need to have that crowd behind you, because they've been used to playing without a big crowd through these under 23 games, because it's not a huge crowd that they're getting there. So they sort of make their own confidence. So you don't see that where you would say, for instance, say for Aubameyang and Lacazette, they probably need that little bit of a confidence boost. Whereas obviously when we're watching Nketiah and Balogun, they don't need it because they're used to not playing with that crowd noise.
I think that's a really clever point because I hadn't considered that. You've got like these big time ponies who who feed off that attention. They're ego maniacs, like what Max was saying the other day. But that's a really good point because under 23s, under 21s, they would have a smattering or spattering of fans. You'd get the odd golf clap behind when you do something good.
Like rain tapping on a tin roof.
I think that's a really insightful point.
And so obviously speaking of good players, like I agree with you about AM, and I am really gutted I didn't see him in midfield again. I think we should have done. I think after watching him against Rapid Vienna, I think he deserved to play in that point, that thing. But he just seems to be that lad who just gets tossed here, there, and everywhere. Oh, I need you here. Oh, I need you there. It's not fair on him.
It's frustrating, isn't it? And I'm more supportive than many of Arteta because I kind of see him as our only way out rather than us chopping and changing and going back to square one. But I struggle to understand not giving people a run to give them confidence. That sort of in out, shake it all about fucking approach. It can't do much good for his development or confidence.
I think why not sentiment here is sent in. I think a good one here, actually. To be fair, other people say the youngsters aren't good enough, but who in the first team? I'm guessing who is in the first team. I sort of agree with that in some respect. These youngsters they're putting on a really good show in these, like we were saying a minute ago, in the Europa League. They're not going up against crap opposition, I would say, because at the end of the day, they're in the Europa League. They're not in the Europas for nothing. They have to get. Even the ones that you'd think, like, say, for instance, Dundalk or even Mulder, they have to get through a different round to be, to keep coming up to get into that position that we're in. Not everyone's as lucky as these, a lot of the English clubs. I think Tottenham had to go through another round before they got into the group stages. So not everyone's that lucky to get straight into the group stages. So they're not nobodies for me. They ain't got world-class players in there, but I don't think we've got a world-class player, to be honest with you. So we've got no, we can't turn around and say, oh, well, we've got world-class players. No, we haven't. But, I sort of agree with that. These youngsters, I think they're pushing their way through for me. Some of them are, like we were saying about AMN, he should be in this first-team squad. I think either on the bench, to add something different. But when Tottenham, against Tottenham last week, he didn't even get on the bench. And then was it Nelson who didn't get on the bench either?
Well, that was odd. Carrying that many central midfielders on the bench and then not having anyone that could affect the game if we went a goal down. That was incredibly conservative with that selection and probably didn't match the starting lineup, the fact that it wasn't a conservative starting lineup. So... I think probably was sorry to I'm going to interrupt, but I think he was probably expecting to get the early goal and then be on the back foot. It just didn't seem to come across like that. That's hence why there was no out winger, for instance, or an outlet on the bench. And I think maybe we were pushing for the early goal, but sometimes it just don't work out, does it? And I think that's the naivety of the manager. But I do like that pushing for the first goal because I think if teams know that they can sit back against us, then we need to draw them out. So if we get that early goal and they can actually come out and attack us rather than sitting in the low block and drawing us out of position. And that's that funny dynamic that's happening now where, you've got certain managers who don't want the bloody ball, and you had it with Nuno at Wolves. He didn't want the ball. And then you had it with bloody Mourinho last week. He didn't want the ball. So... if maybe Arteta we haven't given him enough credit because we actually played quite well at times.
Yeah.
We just didn't get that goal.
I don't think we was crap. It wasn't a crap game because I put myself through it twice, and I don't think we definitely wasn't a crap team. We had 80% of the, 70 to 80% of the possession in that game, and we went at them. The problem is they were set up for how we was going at them. It just
exactly
works.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's I don't know. It's just one of them things. But yeah, we're through to the next round anyway, the Europa League. Not really much to say about that, to be fair.
No.
I think we're pretty much done on that one. So we'll move on to our.
Do we have any more? Sorry, mate. Do we have any more games? Do we have any more games in that competition to see the kids, or is that it?
League. I think that's it till New Year. I'm just
okay.
I've got the fixtures in front of me. They haven't been announced yet, so that'll be New Year.
Okay,
that's the next one. So we'll get straight on to the Burnley game. I know you was looking forward to this because I know you know all the team, don't you? So
yeah, I know fuck all about Burnley. I know how Sean Dyche manages, so I know I'm going to not enjoy watching us play against them, and I feel like we're going to get 7 shades of shit hacked out of us against a Sean Dyche team, which doesn't fill me with confidence. With our bunch of pansies anyway, but I don't know a lot about their team. No.
Right. Well, I don't really. I've been to Burnley twice. I've watched it. It was not last season. The season before I watched them. It was the last game of the season. I think we won 5-1, 5-2. I can't remember. And then we moved on. And I know what I went last season before the full lockdown, and it was probably one of the worst games I've ever been to in my entire life. It was awful. It was 0-0. It was boring as fuck.
Yep.
It was awful. And I can just see another one of them games coming our way.
Yeah. Is it away?
No. Actually, now you've got us lying. No, it's at home, which makes it even worse.
Almost.
Our home record at the minute's been terrible.
Yeah.
Saying that, our away record at the minute's been terrible.
True.
Don't really matter. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to this one overly so much. Like, for the same reasons you are, you're going to get a team that's going to get 7 bells of shit knocked out of them throughout the game. Tapped ankles, crushed toes, bruised shins. It's going to happen.
I mean, it's more of that sort of older school English style of playing, where particularly you don't have the finances behind you to play pretty football. It's very sort of, it's very functional. So it gets a result above the putting on the show as such. Yeah. But I'm sure Burnley fans wouldn't give a fuck. I'm sure they know who and where they are and what money comes into the club, and the complete antithesis of Arsenal, which are a bunch of fucking prima donna pansies who are overpaid and not willing to get into the one-on-one fights. You've got 2 ends of the spectrum in terms of clubs. So they'll be trained hard to the one-on-ones. You don't let anyone run past you. You take them down rather than running past you. You leave in elbows, knees, studs whenever you can.
Of course.
And we'll have our players doing 15, 16 roly-polies after that.
It's true, though. I'm laughing because it's true.
I know. So, it'll be an interesting discussion coming up, because how the fuck are we going to overcome this? Because there's real 2 opposing ways of playing football.
Yeah, I was just looking before we come on to the show today, and I was looking at the Burnley team, and over the last 4 games, I think they've drawn 2, lost 1, and won 1. Their loss come against Man City, which was, I think they lost 5-0. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Was that last week?
Oh, no, sorry, I've got that wrong. Last 4 games have won 2. All right. 1-1, lost 1. Drawn 2. The loss come against Man City, and they've got absolutely battered 5-0. The last game they played, which was Saturday the 5th, they drew against Everton 1-1.
Oh yep. I saw the highlights. Yeah,
and they beat Crystal Palace and Brighton before they played Man City. So they are I would say they're not on a bad run.
Yeah.
I think we're the sort of underdogs in that one, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think because they started the season poorly, I kind of still assumed that they were playing badly, but they're not bad scalps. You know, Brighton have a really interesting manager. He was that guy that they pulled from Norway, the clever one. You know, and they got bloody Danny. They got Welbs playing for them now, and he's doing all right. And Palace are no easy beat team at all.
No.
You know,
they're not a bad team. I wouldn't say they're a bad team, Burnley. They're just sort of that lower end mid-table club that are happy to stay where they are, like you say. They're more than happy to stay where they are if they get a decent run in the cup. That, you know, I mean, that pleases the fans. So it's just, you know, it's just one of them things. And I think we are gonna struggle, and especially with the form that we're in at the minute, it's really difficult. But I know Arsenal, we are going to be without Thomas Partey.
Yep.
Burnley are going to be. I'm sorry, I'm reading here. This is why I'm looking this way.
That's
they are
all right.
going to be. They've got Phil Bardsley, Goodmanson, Stevens, and Jack Cork. They're all back for playing for Burnley. So they've got some good players there that are coming back. More well established players in that Burnley team.
And they got a very good keeper as well.
Pope.
Yeah, I was watching the highlights against Everton. I think it was Everton last week, and he made a series of amazing saves. So, and I hadn't really watched him very closely before. You know, one of the reasons
he's a good goalkeeper. He's not bad. He has got mistakes in him, but I think that comes down sometimes with, you know, the team that you have in front of you. You know, this is what I always said: a keeper is only as good as his defense. I've maintained that for a long time, which is true. Sure. You know, if your defense are going to let shots come through, you know, leaking shots like a colander, then it's going to happen. The goals are going to go in.
Don't we know that as Arsenal fans?
Yeah, exactly.
Though? Because we have made goalkeepers look worse than anybody else in the history of all bloody clubs. Because we were like a sieve. You know, our defense. God, yeah. Our defensive line would play on the halfway line, and we would wonder why our keepers were so bad. And then when they leave our club, they go and do really well.
Yeah, Kai Chen mentions that Burnley are struggling this season so far. Yeah, I have checked the table. They are sitting 18th with 6 points, but I think that's what makes them dangerous to me. You know, they're sat in. I know it's only been 10 games for them, and they're sat in that relegation zone. It's like, well, that's quite a dangerous thing, especially coming up against an underperforming Arsenal. That's what makes me worried more than anything. You know, if they can pull out a show, and obviously in the last 4 games they've not done too bad. They've only lost to City. It's quite that it don't fill me with much confidence either.
No, and they've got their I don't know if you're going to do your team thing like normal. But
I'm not doing that today, mate. Because the reason why I'm just going to let you know now. I normally put in a team thing where I put the team. The problem is now that every time I do that team sheet, it's wrong. 90% of the time, it's completely out of wrong. You know, I'll try doing the Arsenal team, which I always seem to get wrong, barring 2 or 3 players, which we all know who they are, who always seem to get into the lead squad. And if I'm being honest with you, trying to work out the opposition team and how they play and everything else, it's
harder.
It goes over my head.
It's too much like bloody hard work.
Yeah, so I'd rather just if it's just easier for me to look at it because I've got 2 screens. I don't know if you can see it just in this corner here. It's just easier for me to look at that screen, look who's about, and I say, right, I know this person, I know that person. Yeah, but rather than
totally.
You know, because I completely fuck it up if I'm being honest with you.
No, and otherwise,
and it takes me about half an hour beforehand, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't have time tonight. If I'm being fair.
Mate, 100%. I mean, this show is built on just rocking up and chatting shit, you know. So to actually have to do preparation like it's work almost takes the fun out of it. So no stress on my part. My question was going to be, I think it's that Ashley Barnes striker. He always seems to cause us trouble. Am I right with him?
Say that again. Sorry,
Ashley Barnes. Have I got?
I don't think it's actually. Yeah, it could be. Hang on, I'm trying. I know it's Jay Rodriguez played in their last game up front.
Okay.
Well, he's played next to, and I think it was. You're right, Ashley Barnes.
Yeah, because he's the big one. He's the big lump. So Rodriguez would be like the more skillful one. But players like Barnes always seems to give us trouble. Although I think now we've got more sort of bigger old school type of players like Gabrielle and Rob Holding. I think they'll be more able to cope with strikers like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right. This is completely screwed up. You see, look what I've done to myself.
It's all right.
But yeah, it's because I'm clicking. That's my issue. I click too.
Well, let's go back to go back to what we know then, and let's just talk about the Arsenal players rather than.
I did have their team set up. I saw it here, and I saw their last game. But again, that's thingy. The only people I know of that are in that team are Tarkowski. I think that's his name.
Yep.
Pope we've talked about. And we've also, like I say, Jay Rodriguez, and there is what's his name? I can't remember. I'll tell you what, I've screwed this. I always do that every time. Oh well, fuck it.
Fuck it. Anyway, they'll probably.
Anyway, I'll just get this on quick. Sorry. Who was it here? I've just seen it here. There is it. Why not sentiment again? Very fan of the show by the looks of it. He's always here. If Burnley are struggling, Santa Claus FC might rear its ugly head. I think that comes down to this time of year, Arsenal play like shit.
Yeah. That's the that's what I interpreted out of that.
And then DWTT, don't waste a tweet. Burnley can sit back and wait for the Arsenal mistake and or opening. This is what we was getting at. I think they can sit back and do what Wolves and Tottenham did, if I'm being honest. They can do that. They've got that squad to be able to do it because they are, well, I know they leaked 5 goals against Man City, but who hasn't?
Well,
if I'm being honest, who hasn't?
No, well, I mean, let's consider it then. It's going to be a real delicate balance between not getting caught on the break, but then carrying the players that are going to create something.
Yeah.
So, I would say for us this week, most of us hope that Xhaka won't be there because at least we won't have that. When we do push forward, we won't have that person that will be exposed at the back. Are we going to play with a back three again? Because as we know, a back three doesn't necessarily need to be defensive. You can have 3-4-3, in a roundabout way. So, but who are you
can push forward, can't they? A lot more than what we were doing in a 4.
Well, totally. They're more midfielders than defenders, and that's why it's such a taxing position. So, can you carry more players that way and carry a bit more mobility and, dare I say it, creativity in the midfield as well? But I mean, what we see with Arteta, unfortunately, is if he plays someone for 90 minutes in the Europa League, he ain't going to play them on the weekend. So that's what we're seeing at the moment. So even when we are discussing these things now, like all of those players from the Thursday night game, maybe that means that they've played. They're not going to be playing on Sunday. If Xhaka is missing from the first 11, then the Arsenal may be in with the chance of winning. Yeah, I mean...
Gumball made a comment there, and I think, why not sentiment again? We can only hope Xhaka is on father duties.
Yeah, I mean...
it says it all, and people are saying stuff like that.
I mean, I'm really over the Xhaka discussion anyway, because, I mean, we've been talking... We've spent so much of our bloody air and energy and wasted breath and all of that stuff. We kind of know that he isn't the way forward, but for whatever reason, Arteta trusts him more than other people. So the stuff that we're not seeing on the training pitch is the reason, for whatever reason, that he's getting that game. Now, I'm hoping that this is a game where he's been used because the opposition required him to be in the team for the last couple of games. And I hope we've got other internal options that mean that we don't have to carry him for this game. I really hope anyway. And we can see someone in. But we need to kind of just
sorry, I'm just going to interrupt quick. We say this, and you're saying that about this and the other, but we have got quite a big lineup of fixtures over this next week. We have got Burnley on Sunday. Then Wednesday we've got Southampton. at home, and then on Saturday we're away at Everton. So you never know. It's either going to be Burnley or Southampton that I think we're going to maybe see that little bit of a change in that midfield. Hopefully, we might see somebody new. So I'm hoping, it might be Xhaka Sunday, and then we might see AMN or El Nene get in on Wednesday against Southampton. We've got to. I think it's got to mix it up a little bit. I think it's after watching and everything else over the last couple of games that we have played and seeing the Europa, we do need that switch up, that little injection of energy, or that how you described it on your show on the ArseBro OG, that Hail Mary. So I think we just need that. You just need that little switch up. See how it goes. It can't hurt.
And I think it'll happen organically. It'll happen because it's completely necessary when you play 3 games in a week. And that's the really interesting thing about the festive period in UK football, is the fact that you really need to play that balancing act with your squad. And any fan loves seeing the kids come in and do a job, and your momentum keeps going, and
So we're talking about the kids, and I keep having to do this. This one's for Big Steve. I know he'll probably watch it at some point. Bit chubby for the kids. I know he likes that.
That's that goes down in history. That comment. Yeah. But I'm with Big Steve on that. I mean, I've got a massive heart for the kids, because that's the only good thing we have about this club at the moment, and our only chance, I believe, is for success in the future is going to be the progression of how we've nurtured this young talent. So if nothing else, with Arsenal Football Club, there seems to be a good academy bunch that have been managed well, Freddie and Per and even Wenger establishing all of that back in the day, that it is starting to come through. And we are at this interesting point now where the old guys on the big wages, the has-beens and the never-weres, as I like to describe them, they're all they're all starting to be shown the door, at the end of their contract, if nothing else. So we're in this interesting transition period where these guys are going to start coming through. And they need to be given the game time to see whether they're good enough. We can't just say, they're not good enough, because they barely get that opportunity to have a run of games. So, you see your Jack Wilshere's back in the day coming in at 16 years old. Your Cesc Fabregas's when Vieira left.
We have 16-year-old when he first started.
Exactly. And he, Jackie played, 32 games or something that first...
Yeah.
That first, or it could have even been more. It's probably the thing that fucked him for injuries for the rest of his career. Well, but
this was going to be a question as we're going on to it. This was going to be a question of mine. When do we start thinking, right? Some of these players that we've got at the minute are, for instance, say let's go for Aubameyang and Lacazette, for instance. They're a bit off form. They're not doing as good as what we expect and should be doing. When do we think to ourselves, right? Is it time to give, for instance, Eddie a good shout, to play? Is it time to give Balogun a good play? Because I know people say it's like they're too young, they need to establish and stuff like that. Yeah, I agree with that. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes I think you just need that push. Give them that push. Throw them in the deep end. If they can, if they sink, they sink. If they swim, brilliant. That means good for us, because we've got to look at it. If we go back, for instance, for forwards, we've said about midfielders in, Vieira, I think he started when he was 16, 17 for us. So that, and obviously Fabregas and Jack Wilshere, they were only young when they first started. You have to look at some of our forwards that we've had over the years. Like Thierry Henry, when we first got him, he was 20 and he was playing just about every game. Okay, fair enough. He established himself further upfield because he was a left-handed player, a left winger more than what he was a forward, but he established himself as he moved on. But we also had Nicolas Anelka as well. 18. Yeah, I think he was 18. Well, he came to Arsenal at 17.
Yep.
And he got a couple of games, and then the season after, he was 17 years old. He got thrown in because Ian Wright was injured, and the rest is sort of history. Lasult and whatever else is gone.
Yeah.
But it's time now that we think, okay, we've got to take that chance with somebody.
What
else have we got to lose?
Yeah, we're at a real delicate balancing act with that. Because, I was saying you've almost got to play Aubameyang through his funk, because I don't know the benefit of benching him. But the problem is we're carrying two of those guys that are in that funk with Lacazette as well. And he worked his arse off, but that's not all you need from a striker. You need bloody goals. So dropping him deeper, it's almost like Lacazette is playing out like a Wayne Rooney style of career progression, but he was never as good and never as multifaceted as Rooney was to be able to do that. So, he hasn't
got that build. He hasn't got that. When say, for instance, I agree with you, that little route, that Rooney turn into it, where he's obviously played as a forward, came back as a more of an attacking mid because it suited him more as he aged, which it worked for him. But I think with Rooney, he had the footballing brain, didn't he, to go with it. He had the passing, he had the movement to be that type of attacking deep midfielder. Yeah, I just don't think Lacazette has got that. And
that's exactly what I'm saying. So Rooney had the footballing brain and the desire. He could have played anywhere. He could played as a bloody right back if he wanted to.
I think he played as a left winger for England once.
Yep. So, well, I mean, he did back in the Man U days when they were carrying Tevez, Rooney, Ronaldo. He played all over the place. But anyway, this ain't the Man U show. It was more the comparison with the type of build, that sort of slightly shorter, stocky build that the Lacazette has. But I'm not so sure dropping him back just to fit him in the team is a good way for us forward. No, so now it's going to be really delicate with balancing their egos, their confidence, and then feeding in the new players. So I'm really excited by Eddie because I love the way he plays, but I don't know if that level of quality is there for him to see us through Christmas, because that could really kill his confidence doing that. So I would have actually, you remember at the back end of last season where Lacazette was shown the door a little bit by Arteta and Eddie was brought in, but then what Arteta's done again is, through no fault of his appearance at the start of the season, Eddie was dropped again. So he sort of lost that more Premier League confidence. Then Lacazette was fed back in. So now we're in this situation where like all of our strikers aren't really doing the job at Premier League level. But they're going to have to be rotated. Like whatever we see, I wouldn't mind Aubameyang having a bit of a rest, but I think more than anything, he just needs a goal. It's not like he's tired because he hasn't been fucking applying himself when he's playing.
This is it, innit? Yeah.
So, and then I've got a bit of confidence in Balogun, and sorry, I'm jumping around a bit, because he's got the man physique on him already. It's kind of like an Iwobi. He's a big fella, so he could handle the rigors of the Premiership and getting beaten up by the defenders. So I've got confidence in him being able to do that. Whether he's ready technically is another thing. So it'll be really interesting. The next
I get what you're saying with Balogun, to be fair, because he's got the height, he's got the build, and he's got the movement, which is what we're looking for. Yeah, but I think this brings me to this point that DWTT has made. No one has been allowed to fight for a place. Positions have been assigned unless injuries occur. No one new comes in the starting 11. Gabriel may not have played versus Fulham and could be stuck on the bench.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I get what he's saying there. If Gabriel hadn't have had that opportunity against Fulham, he might not even be in the team now, I think is what was being said.
This is it, and I completely get that, to be fair, because we are seeing that, and without going down that monotonous route that we have gone down before about people keeping the places, because we have, and I think it's something that gets said on most podcasts that we're on, to be fair. These certain players, they can't do no wrong. One for me is Bellerin. He can't do no wrong at the minute. I think he should have a bit of time out, and just be, spend a bit more time on the training pitch rather than learning his craft that little bit more to progress. Whereas what he's doing now, for me, it's not working. That drifting inside, the not running back, especially over the last couple of games.
He does run back. He's just got to do it from bloody wing forward position, from the opposition bloody byline. My fear if Bellerin gets a spell on the sideline is that we lose so much attacking impetus. I think he's so important to us going forward because we're so stagnant in the midfield and with our runners in the front three. I'm not for a second going to say that he hasn't been struggling defensively, but I hate to fucking think about our lack of attacking opportunities if he's not on the pitch. And that's my struggle.
I get you because he did put the ball in a couple of times in the I think he did it quite a few times in maybe not crosses but more low crosses into the box against Tottenham. So I do get that. It's just that for me, when you're in a 4 of defence, and you're going to get it's primed to be counter-attacked. For sure. That's the issue for me. I know what you're saying, but excuse me. Sorry, I was going to get what I was going to say was I know what you're saying. He was the only one really. Him and Tierney were the only two that were really putting balls into the box, which I think that's especially when you're playing in a 4. And I think this is where my issue is with the tactics. That shouldn't be the only way you should be getting balls into the box.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
That's my issue with the tactics on that one. But okay, I know I've picked out Bellerin on there, but there is a couple more that I could have said. You've got your Xhakas, you've got your Aubameyangs, you've got your Lacazettes, you've got your Williams, who I all think should be at some point rotated with a younger player. Like we've had the rotation with Nelson every now and again. He comes on, he makes a good impression. But I just think sometimes bring him on a bit earlier every time. Stop waiting for that 70th, 80th minute to bring these players on. You're not even giving them a chance to get started.
Yep, and I think that's a really good point as well because with Arteta, for me, the conservatism with him is how late he brings on subs. Do you remember Wenger? You could time your watch. You could time your watch for it, and it would be wing forward for wing forward. It would be like for like. It'd be quite boring.
65th minute, and it would all be the same players.
Whereas exactly. Yeah. Whereas Arteta, he waits even later, so the match is already done. You're not giving a player a chance to to express themselves and to turn the game around. So with Nelson, I find that quite frustrating because his end product might not be the best, but he's not really given a lot of time on the pitch to develop that. But when he does come on, he causes a bit of chaos, more so than a Willian would do.
And so I totally agree with that. And sometimes in these types of more technical games that we have been seeing, and I think that's what's coming on Sunday as well with Burnley. It's going to be a lot more technical. They're going to be on the double block.
Yeah,
I think we can sort of do that. Sort of pretty much guess that straight away with Burnley. They're going to be on the double block.
So who has the footballing brain to play more one-touch football or create space out of a tight situation? Who is that player? There's only a couple that I can think of. I can
think of a couple, but I just don't think that. For me, one that does stand out for me would be Ceballos, who could probably do that.
But he doesn't play high enough up the pitch.
But he does. That's the issue. He doesn't play high enough of the pitch. I think that comes down with the tactics in the squad. He doesn't play high enough to produce that for me, but he has got the capability to do that.
I agree.
We've watched him in a few games, and I think I think it was the Wolves game or the game before. He's got that tenacity and that chaos in him. He can take players on. He can run at people. He can, he can tackle. He can actually have the ball stick to him as well sometimes. Because I think it's 2 or 3 times I've seen him where he's ran into trouble and managed to squeeze out of it quite quickly.
But his starting point is so deep. That's the issue. My issue.
But is that because he's told to start from?
Well,
what I mean?
The $1 million question.
For a player like him, he can pass the ball really well as well. We've seen it before. He can basically put the ball onto a a penny or a dime or whatever,
Mm.
you know, he can put it on there. If you ask him, say, right, I want it on my noggin, he's going to be the man you're going to turn to. Out of anyone, really.
Yeah. And then you've also got like who's playing if it's a back three, when you have Louise back in the team, he plays as a midfielder a lot of the time with his distribution. So even though Rob Holding's done very well, he's less good in terms of his distribution. So we lose what we gain in terms of one-on-one, like aerial ability and man marking, we lose in the ball progression. So you're always robbing Peter to pay Paul with this team. And, a player that I'm sort of leaning towards because I love how he speeds things up in the middle of the park is Maitland-Niles. But maybe it's less of a risk if you play him from a left wing position, a left wing back position, who can go in and riff with other people from tucking into that midfield position, and then have your inside out balls and your overlapping runs and cutting inside and your little one-touch layoffs. So it's this really delicate balance. Like, would we need to play a back three? And I realize it's all fluid, but would we need to play a back three in a starting position against Burnley, who will sit in a low block, because we get to carry those more creative players who can come into midfield? Or do you go more all out and back, say, a Gabrielle and Rob Holding central partnership to play in a two and let everyone else bomb forward? But does that mean the midfield don't do their job and expose the defense? So we've got all of these factors to consider.
Yeah, this is the issue, and I think you've hit it there with the robbing Peter to pay Paul. To be fair, because you've got no. Because when you think about it, when you said it, I thought, oh, actually, that's a good point, because you've got no person who can play the same as the next person. Do you know what I mean? You've always got that difference, and I think that's. I completely agree with you there. I couldn't put it better myself. It's a really good one to say, because it is really from what you're taking out from, say for instance, like you said, AMN, who's got that, can bomb forward, can run people down, can tackle, can do this and the other from midfield, and then obviously if you play him as a left wing back, he can do all of that on the left wing. He can put balls into the box. But when you put him, for instance, if you did put him in midfield, and if you swap him, for instance, say you say Xhaka, you can't do any of that. All he can do is put balls across, or sideways and backwards, so,
and hold his space zonally. And I think that's why Arteta likes him, because it's all about the zone. So he sticks in his position. He allows the other players to move about, like your Ceballos or what have you. And then he distributes. But as we know, we're so bored with this incessant sideways and backwards safety first passing.
Yeah.
So possession for possession's sake, rather than possession to progress the ball up the pitch. And that's why we're so fucking frustrated. But, then you've got players like Ceballos who kind of leave their posts, or like a Guendouzi, who's just an idiot who ran all over the fucking pitch.
If you want chaos, there's the man to do it.
Oh, yeah, So and once again, it's that balancing act. So how can we get enough players into the spaces that are going to influence the game a little bit more, but then not take away from our defensive solidarity? And I guess that's football in a nutshell.
I think that's where El Nene come in, because he played, like I say, from what I saw from him in the last game, he has got a bit of pace about him. He's got that bit of, a footballing brain about him, which I never used to see before. I used to be one of them ones. Oh, El Nene, don't bother me. He can leave. If he leaves, he leaves. If he don't, he don't. He was one of them type. But now I'm sort of I've turned 360 on that, and not 360. I've turned 180 on that, and I thought actually this guy's got a bit about him. He's actually pretty good. And then obviously that goal last night again. Where's that come from? You wouldn't have expected it from a player like El Nene. So, or as Ryan would say, El Nene.
El Nene.
But yeah, it's.
It gets stuck in my head. Yesterday, I was walking around like making dinner. And all I kept saying all the time was El Nene, and my son, who's like 5, he's not saying what the fuck are you talking about because he wouldn't say that, but he's looking at me as like, who is this idiot?
Yeah.
It gets stuck in my head.
I get that off my kids all the time, and I don't even have to do it, mate. It's like, who the fuck is this? It's just one of them things. I get it off the wife as well.
Yeah, totally.
In fairness, so
standard. But yeah, no, I think El Neni, he's a combination of all of those things. He's probably not a game changer, but he's solid in a lot of areas, and he's certainly more mobile. So and unfortunately with El Neni, I think he's the one who's going to play at the level around everyone else rather than setting the tone himself. But when we're talking about movement and mobility and not letting the manager down, like Xhaka in comparison might have other attributes which are better, but he's also got more of a mistake in him. So, that's the thing. You can play well 80% of the time, but if your 20% is total dog shit, like a Mustafi, Mustafi's another one. He's actually...
Nice now, haven't you?
Well, let me make this comparison. Mustafi is actually very good at progressing the ball. So when he's not on the pitch and we're so bad in the midfield, we actually miss him in terms of distribution on that right-hand side. But he's so bad at his major fault errors that cost us games, and that's why I think Xhaka and him are quite similar.
Yeah, sliding on his ass constantly.
Yeah.
That's all he ever does, just slide on his ass. And I'm seeing that from... Bellerin recently, so I'm wondering if Bellerin is taking pointers off Mustafi.
Well, the thing about the slide tackle is that's your last ditch effort. So that's when you're under total stress and your last thing is full sprint speed, and that's the only thing you can do. And you need to time that 10 out of 10. Otherwise, it's going to be a pen or a yellow card or a free kick or something like that. So whereas another player will
completely miss.
Yeah. Like that meme that was going around where he kept sliding forever through space and
Slidey McSlide face.
Yeah.
But it's predictions. Have you got any predictions for tomorrow? Sunday's game, should I say? Not tomorrow.
Well,
I keep forgetting it's Friday.
I think we got to win. So it's one of those things. Something will come good eventually, whether it's a crappy performance that nicks the goal or whether something clicks. Something's got to go right at some stage.
We hope. We can hope.
It's
the worst thing is coming down to the Christmas period, the winter period when we play like shit and we've got where it's going to turn good and it's like shit, it's that period.
That's right, and we're not even good before it starts. Usually we're doing well, and then we fuck it up.
We're absolutely flying before it starts, and then all of a sudden it just turns to shit.
What was the one a couple of years ago? We were flying, and then Boxing Day we lost 2-0 against Brighton or something like that. It was just anyway. It was.
Was that Emery's first season?
Yeah.
When we was doing really well, was on an unbeaten run, weren't we? And I think was that the turning point.
Yeah.
And then he just turned downhill.
Yeah. So prediction-wise, I can't see us not conceding because that's just unheard of at the moment. But I think we'll score a couple of goals. So 2-1 to Arsenal would be 2-1. My prediction. Something scrappy like a set-piece header or a penalty or something like that. And please, fucking God, a goal from open play. That's not a cross. Would be wonderful.
An actual shot from outside the box would be perfect.
Just fucking anything. Anything. Like how many bloody hours? It's the most monotonous Arsenal that I remember ever. Worse than bloody watching Emery football at the moment, and that's bloody saying something.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think I'm going to be quite reserved on this one. I'm actually going to go for. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, no, it's very likely. It could be. I
don't think we're going to win, but I just don't think we're going to lose either. But
are we that desperate that are we that desperate that not losing is something that we would take?
Yeah, definitely.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, that is desperation at its best.
Yeah,
we're at that point. We're at that thing. It's
mate.
just like,
Big Sam is waiting.
Big Sam. Oh God, no, please. Oh no, not Big Sam. I hope not.
I know.
Well, that brings me into a good point. Actually, I read TalkSport in the UK, a big shitty radio thing that does a lot of sport. They put up a post on, I think it was either Facebook or Twitter. I can't remember the one, but it was a post from. It was like a retweet or a repost from I think it was a French newspaper. I'm not entirely sure which one. It could have been French or German. I don't know. But apparently, according to these guys who are in the know, that Arteta has got 3 games to turn it round. What would you make of that?
I don't know.
I thought you'd gone.
I mean, whatever newspaper.
You cut out for it.
No.
I thought, it's gone. He's had enough.
I've checked out. Look, there's logic, but it could be the 2 + 2 = 5 type of thing. I mean, it's whatever it is in quotation marks journalism these days. There's not a lot of truth to anything, so it's a lot of hearsay and conjecture. But logically, if we don't win a couple in the next 4 or 5 games, there'll be even more pressure on him. Of course, there's going to be. But
the next games we've got, like I say, we've got Burnley, Southampton, Everton, and then we've got Chelsea in the league. But before we've got Chelsea, we've got Man City in the quarterfinals, the League Cup. So he's got. In all fairness, these next 3 games, I sort of tend to agree with that. These next 3 games are quite crucial. Because after Chelsea, we've got we've got Chelsea in the league. After Chelsea, it's then Brighton, and then into the new year, we've got West Brom, Newcastle. So it gets a little bit, I would say, a little bit easier. I think these next 3 games are quite crucial because they're not going to be easy games. Like I say, we've mentioned about Burnley and the double block and the doubling up on players, which we'll probably see. Southampton, again, they're no mugs.
No, they're pretty good. I think their manager's very clever. They've got a really solidly constructed squad after they bloody sold everyone for all those years. I think they've started to build again. Yeah,
and then we got Cedric. No, I'm saying that he played well yesterday. To be fair,
he played all right, and I would rather see maybe AMN not get shoved back in at right back and take more of an opportunity in central midfield. And if you're going to give Bellerin a spell, maybe put Cedric there because that's why he was fucking bought anyway, you stupid cunts. But back to your Arteta question, I don't think there's the desire from the board or the executive group or whatever to get rid of him, because if we do, then we're back to square one from when Wenger left. So, and then we'll have
doing a job by being the second right back, for instance. So, he's there. We got him for a reason. I get that. I probably would have preferred maybe someone slightly better, but then again, beggars can't be choosers. We got him for nothing or a wage. But it's either going to be Cedric or AMN. I'd rather Cedric play than AMN. I'd rather free up AMN in the midfield.
No, and that's what I want to see. As much as I love AMN and enjoy watching him play, I want to see him affect the game more. Free AMN and play Cedric. I quite like that. So if we're going to give Bellerin a spell and improve defensively, and I may be projecting, but I think Cedric is fairly trustworthy. Is European Championship winner with Portugal. Yeah. So. And he seems to be a good crosser. He's probably not as technically good on the ball, joining in with midfielders as Bellerin is, but, maybe he holds his position a bit better. And then provide AMN with an opportunity to play in midfield. But, you're throwing him in the deep end at the hardest time of year as well. So, I keep saying it. It's a bit of a fence-sitting comment, but it's a balancing act. But coming back to your Arteta point, we'll end up being that yo-yo club, not in terms of promotion relegation, but that yo-yo club in terms of a new manager bounce.
Yeah.
And every time you bring it in, you bring someone in who's got new ideas, who wants new players, who needs a new backroom staff, and we wouldn't have progressed at all away from Wenger. So with Arteta and the executive structure, you know, he's the club manager now. You know, he's not just a head coach. So we've put a lot of emphasis into him. And I would like to see him get an opportunity when all this dross gets to leave. So if we let him go now, then Arteta has had to eat the shit of this terrible squad and gets the arse before he's even had an opportunity to rebuild it. So I realize he's made a couple of errors, you know, like I don't think Willian has been particularly good, if, you know, at all, you know. But outside of that, you know, most things have been fairly good in terms of the incoming players. It's more of our outgoing players that's been a real problem. Yeah. So I wouldn't want to see him go. I wouldn't want to see him go at all.
No, I'm with you on that one, because I think to myself as well, it's like, yeah, Arteta, he has to be questioned a little bit on his tactics and the way we're playing. I get that.
Of course.
I'm nowhere saying that he needs to get out. He needs to be questioned. There's a difference in being questioned and then saying Arteta out. You know, that's a huge difference. And I think questions do need to be answered or asked. But there's also the fact is, if say for instance, if the rumours are true, he fails over the next 3 games, we sack him, who do we bring in? You know, there's a lot of people out there saying that, like, for instance, Allegri, Pochettino, I can't remember who else. Like you said, they're going to be wanting a full backroom staff. They want to be wanting multi-million impact for signings and getting rid of players. You know, and this is the thing that we've got with Arsenal at the minute. They've made a huge structure behind Arteta with Edu, Vianney, from board level to manager level. They've made a huge structure.
Yeah, and got rid of a lot of people by backing Arteta. I mean, look, Pochettino would excite me because I know how good a manager he was, and it would really stick 2 fingers up to Spurs as well, because I'm sure they would rather have him than fucking Mourinho. It's just poor circumstances that I think that Poch lost. Anyway, he hadn't done it in his time there, and certain players will leave. That era ended, and I think that's what cost him his job rather than him managing poorly. Yeah. But I mean, he could be the next Man U manager. He could be the next Bayern Munich manager. He could be the next Real Madrid manager. I don't even know.
Zidane's probably due to be getting sacked. So yeah,
I don't even know that he would be interested in us at the moment. So you know,
he probably wouldn't even. But anyway, I was just sort of speaking in sort of sense, like, if we did get any of these people, they're going to be wanting this. They're going to be wanting that. You know, they're not going to sit there and probably. I'd say Arteta's that person who they could sort of manipulate round what we can and can't have. For instance, money-wise, personnel-wise. Whereas if you get an established manager, for instance, like Allegri, like maybe Zinedine Zidane, for instance, you know, at the time, maybe Mourinho or Pochettino, not Pochettino. What's his name? Who's gone to Everton? We all know what I'm talking. We all know what I'm talking about. They're going to be wanting Ancelotti. They're going to be wanting the full works, the full ins and outs. They're going to be wanting control.
And I don't think we got the money for that, because we need them.
Yeah, this is it. They're going to be wanting more control over the financing, who they want in the squad. They want how much they're willing to do this. They're going to be wanting everything. Yeah. Whereas Arsenal the structure that we've got from board to manager, they wouldn't allow that.
No, for sure. And I think if we were to do that in quite a Hail Mary approach and it doesn't work out, we're fucked as well. So that's why I feel like Allegri is a non-starter. He's just not suitable. I could never see him at Arsenal because we don't operate like that.
No.
So yeah, it's almost a moot point.
Sorry, why not send them into
So,
Scunny? Do you mean actual footballing structure? No, I mean backroom structure, as in managerial structure. For instance, you've got that structure and you've got that sort of plinth set in place between board and manager, where you've got in between the manager. So you got Arteta at the bottom of the totem pole, then you'll have Edu, then Vianney, then the board, or whoever else is between them and the board, and then the next one on top would be the owners. So it's that totem pole in place. That totem pole is going to be rigid. It's going to be stuck. It's going to have roots. It's going to be a big tree.
It's a bureaucracy, the structure.
Yeah. That ain't changing. That ain't going to change.
It's funny you say that, because I wonder whether that power between Arteta and Edu, whether it actually does operate in that bureaucratic structure, because I think that's become a bit sort of fuzzy.
Maybe. Well, I know, because Edu was brought in. Was he director of football? I don't know what.
Exactly. So he should sit. So he should sit above Arteta. But I'm not so sure that power is actually in place. But anyway, that's I don't actually know that. That's all conjecture.
Yeah. Well, like I say, all I'm doing is that's what I see.
Yeah.
That's all I see. That's what I would say. That's what I mean by structure. Footballing structure wise, what footballing structure? I ain't got a clue where our football structure is. Working on stuff like that. Sorry, he's just made why not send him in a football structure like Man City, Liverpool, and Chelsea working well. Yeah, that's working well, but I don't think there's that totem pole or that branch, that tree segment, that bureaucracy in between the manager and the owners. And I think that's the difference between the likes of Man City, Liverpool, and Chelsea. Chelsea, I'm not too sure about with Lampard and stuff, but beforehand, when Jose was there and other managers were there, I don't think there was that bureaucracy in between the manager and the owner. I think it just went from one to the other. There was a direct line, for instance, whereas ours, it's not a direct line, is it? It's like it has to go through 6 different people before it reaches the person.
Yeah.
And then you've got Chinese whispers in between.
Yeah, because Abramovich does what he wants because he actually likes football and he wants to win things. Whereas our owners don't give a fuck. They have a business. So they defer to their business structure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the business structure. So yeah. Right. Anyway, on that note, I think we'll give it a rest there then. We will be back on Friday next week before the Everton game. We'll be discussing the Southampton game. I'm not going to do one before the Southampton game because I see it as in we'll stick to the Friday and then we can do what we do every week and let's have a game and a game. We'll just review one game, discuss the next.
I think that's logical. We'd have fuck all to talk about otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll have what do you think? So yeah, we'll be discussing that, and then obviously the week after it'll be the same again. Oh no, it won't be the week after. I have just noticed what the week after is. I am not coming on Friday next a week or 2 weeks today. I'm not doing
what
it.
Is
guys.
it? Christmas or something? Yeah,
Christmas Day. I'm not doing it. So the Friday Arse show will probably be either hosted on a Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, fuck it. Doesn't matter. It's fluid. It'll be Christmas time. Yeah. But it will be fun having these shows to do over that period because, we'll have a lot
You're
of
more than
football
welcome to come on again, Toby. I do not mind doing it at 9 o'clock at all, mate. It's 9 p.m. for me over here, guys. If anyone's watching from anywhere else, I am from the UK. It's 9 o'clock. It is, 8? Well, it's not 9 o'clock now. It's 10:15, but...
Yeah, so we're 11 hours ahead.
Yeah, you're in Oz. Yeah. You're in Tomorrowland.
That's right. I'm from the future. But when will then be now? Soon.
I love that one. That's a great film. But yeah, thanks for everyone in the chat joining in. I'm sorry I couldn't get all your comments up. We was in a zone, I think, at one point. So yeah, thanks for everyone in the chat. Thanks for putting anything. Thanks for watching. If you do like us, if you did like the thing, I have got a little ticker here. I should have put that up earlier. But if you're enjoying the show, click the like button, hit subscribe. We do other things as well. Obviously, Toby is on with his brother Max for the OG show. We do have every now and again, we have an Arse Brothers Extreme. I'm not too sure when that's coming next. I'm sure it'll be coming here within the new year.
When something else extreme.
Yeah, when something extreme happens. Yeah. Yeah. So yep. Ryan.
And we should have a monthly happening sometime soon as well.
It should be next week, surely, shouldn't it? After these next couple of games,
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say next. Tell Max he needs to be next week. Tell him to sort himself out.
Yeah,
sort his shit. Yeah, right. Well, thanks for joining us again. Thanks very much, Toby. Much appreciated, mate. More than welcome.
My pleasure.
Would love to have you on again, mate. Love to have you on.
Will do.
Again, thanks to everybody. See you next week.